Savagegeese, yeah!
This is Car Bros Podcast, episode 57.
The Big 5-7.
The Big 5-7.
Heinz Ketchup, I think, is 57, right? Isn't that something?
Sponsored by Heinz Ketchup. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. Today is a very special day.
Very, very special.
We have our first and potentially last guest ever on the podcast. Very
He needs no introduction.
popular YouTuber.
Personality.
Yeah. Every time I refer to you, this is Savagegeese.
Yeah.
I like to think of you, though, as Savage Goose.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
why.
just me, so technically it's Savage Goose.
Yeah. How should we refer to you? Goose?
It's become a bad joke now that people call me Goose. So let's just go.
You want to go with that?
All right.
Yeah, all right. I like it. This is Goose.
From Top Gun, you might say.
Yeah.
I wish. I guess I'd be dead then.
It's off to a good start. Just real quick, if you are enjoying this podcast so far, please consider contributing to our Patreon. Yeah, fuck it. Just do it.
Yeah.
That's about all I'm going to say about that.
You know what to do.
Google Carbros Patreon, etc. Thanks for being here. All that interest.
And obviously, if you
whatever.
have not checked out Savagegeese channel, if for some reason,
Yeah, I can imagine most people have.
but
You should. Honestly, Goose, I don't watch the entire duration of all of your videos, but I think I've seen every one of them. I mean, it's like,
Wow.
it's pretty much like I'll sit down with Chipotle or whatever, and it's like, let me go on YouTube, and you're really the only one that I will bring up.
You seek out.
Because everyone else, it's like, I don't want to say I can't take anyone else. I just don't, I've kind of burned out on all of them.
So much out of it.
Yeah, and I appreciate I appreciate the formula that you've come up with, because it's solid and it takes a shitload of work, but you still do it. And I don't know, it's like, it's fun to watch for any car. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, and even like with our limited experience doing videos, we can like really appreciate how much work goes into this stuff.
Yeah.
Like far beyond what you see in the actual video.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's funny because I greatly appreciate you saying that, because it's one of the reasons why I continue to do it this way. But I feel like it's not quite sustainable as much anymore.
Yeah.
I look at myself in the mirror when I get done with some of this stuff in the morning, and I get up and I just hate life. I'm like, why am I working so hard for this?
Right.
For these junks. But yeah, I mean, it's partly like you guys. It started from really enjoying it and really being involved in the creative process of it, and not trying to do what everybody else is doing, and that's part of it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you like it. I'm kind of feel sorry for you because I don't feel like it's that good, but I appreciate it.
I think we have a similar approach in that when we started making videos, at least from my end, but I think all of us, it's just like, I'm just going to make the best content I can, and like, fuck anyone that tries to compete on that level.
Right.
I mean, really, it's just like, I'm just going to make better content than what's there.
Yeah, quality over quantity.
Yeah, it's just like, except the thing about you, which is crazy, is you, like, we feel that way, but we put out a video every 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yours are like, I mean, you're just over there draining your life force. Just hammering them out.
It's something else. I mean, I guess the thing is, like, if you want to make money off of it on YouTube,
Yeah.
sadly, you have to, even if you're putting the work in, you have to have that 1-2, probably 2 at a minimum every
Right.
week. And
Yeah.
if don't have a lot of help, that becomes very tedious.
Yeah.
Very fast. you
Yeah,
know?
especially at the quality that you produce the videos at, where you could churn out garbage or what you would consider garbage, but it, takes a lot more to put out quality stuff.
Yeah, the wild thing to me, and I don't know if anyone else, I don't know how many people in our audience know this, but until recently it was just you making your videos. It was literally just you. And I think you said at one point you were even making the music for them.
Yeah, that was for a long time. I was making the music, and that took me, I would say, because I'm musical, but I've never really done it on the computer, so it was like learning that process. And I would say it would take me probably 10 hours just to make like an intro song. It was just stupid, absolutely stupid. And then people would steal it,
Right.
download it, re-upload it to a content ID system, and I get copyright notices on my own
Jesus.
content. So like,
YouTube.
and then I have to prove that it was mine.
Right.
Like, okay, I used this MIDI file, this on this date. It was like,
Take that, you piece of shit. That's what you get.
He has to fly out to Silicon Valley and perform it live in front of him.
Yeah.
So I quit doing that. Now I'm just using Epidemic sounds like every single other person.
Oh, that's cool. It's like certain things. It's like, fuck it, man. Just throw in the towel on this one. Like, just can't do it.
Well, the thing is, even when we see like the videos of like the vloggers where like it looks really easy,
What do you mean?
like the big channels where it's just like a dude with his camera.
Oh, yeah.
Or like that still looks like we still know that's a shitload of work to like pump that stuff out.
Yeah.
Even if it like looks simple and easy to make.
Yeah, it looks effortless.
Like just
yeah.
like how quickly you'd get tired of doing that. At least if it was us.
Well, there are very few people. I mean, I will admit I'm not super well versed with everything that's on YouTube because it's this like exponential growth thing of channels and content. But I'm struggling to think of anyone else short of like big production channels that do what you do with some like cinematic kind of intros and shots and stuff like that. And that stuff really burns up time. Like that's the kind of stuff that really
Yeah, no one even really thinks about that when they're watching it most of the time.
I mean, I think they appreciate it, but like every one of your videos will have like a different intro. And it's like, man, this guy is just glutton for punishment.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like I could sit here and talk to you about this for hours, all the stuff. Like I have a trip tomorrow. I'm leaving at like 5 a.m. and I have all this gear that I have to pack into like 3 cases, like motion sliders, remote heads, mounts, all this crap that nobody cares about. Like literally nobody cares about this stuff.
I care.
Yeah, I was gonna say we
three
geek
people
out on this.
You go there and there's a guy next to you like holding his phone doing the same thing.
Yeah, right. It's like a million subscribers.
4S.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like the amount of money, expense, and the headache. Like yesterday, I had a friend come over because I wanted to try a motion tracking pan tilt head mounted on the back of a car where I could remote control it or have it track a car without me hanging out the back of a car. And we spent like 2 hours, and basically it didn't fucking work. Didn't work, and it's thousands of dollars you invest in trial and error and all this crap, try to make it quicker, easier, and then I have guys that tell me, why do you even bother with that? Just don't do it.
Yeah.
We've had moments like that too.
Yeah.
Why don't we just use our phone to shoot?
Some stuff, it's like some stuff we'll set up and then we'll like shoot another shot with a phone, and it's like, dude, the phone shot looks better.
Yeah.
it's like damn it. That's wild. You do the like smooth motion driving shots by hand? You're just like hanging out of a truck or something?
That's the only. I mean, like you'll see the E39 video that comes out Monday morning.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
It's not gonna be like yours.
Yeah,
but there's some shots.
Obvious. Sorry. Yeah. Continue.
But yeah, I mean, like you'll see one of the shots is like some of them are hard mounted, some of them are like literally me hanging out of the back of the car, and I'm trying to find a way where I can literally do these shots with me and one other person, or just me by myself as much as possible. And that's the hardest part because you always need help, and asking help is.
Yeah, at least we have 3 of us, which is like not as many as we need in some cases, but at least it's more than 1 or 2 people.
Yeah. The wild thing that makes me jealous is when you'll watch like Top Gear or some of this stuff, and literally all they have to do is like show up and talk.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's like professional crews just like nailing all that other shit. It's like, oh man, that's the dream.
Mm-hmm.
That is the dream.
Yeah, it is the dream.
Where you
Well,
can,
yeah,
you can just be an on-air personality.
Yeah, you can just be a personality. Man.
And then you can scream at people like, "Where's my lunch?" You know, and get to that level of entitlement.
Oh, I can't wait to.
Coin's almost at that.
I can't wait to. Yeah.
He's often been called the diva.
I would love to punch crew members. That's the dream, isn't it? Isn't that all we want? Getting fist fights over menial shit. Yeah, this is like really getting nerdy and technical, but one of my favorite shots that you do is the door closing into the gauge cluster. Mm-hmm. I remember when you first started doing that, I was like, oh, that's fucking clever. That's sharp.
You know, that really wasn't a shot either. It was just because I have all the shit mounted on the doors.
Yeah.
And I had to, originally I'd mounted on the roof line and the doors so you couldn't get in the car.
Right.
So I'd have to get in the passenger side to get in the car to get these. So eventually I got it stable enough where I can mount on the door. So it was just me getting in and out of the car.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's an amazing shot. I'm like, that really wasn't a shot.
Yeah,
just happened to be.
You're like, hold on a sec. That was fucking dope. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, yeah. He's so innovative and clever.
And it was me swearing, like, you know, it's usually just a combination of me swearing about how everything doesn't work right, or why am I taking so much time?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny how a lot of the stuff we've done has been, not a lot of it, but like there's quite a bit that's accidental or like on the spot.
Yeah, like
we'll do something, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, yeah, do that. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just kind of like little lucky things.
Your comedy's got to be like that, though, when you're with friends
Yeah.
and you're with a group. I think a lot of the fun part is like the spur of the moment, the
Right.
off-the-cuff humor that you just build, and it
Yeah,
gets more
totally.
ridiculous as you go on. You know, and I could tell that from watching. That's why I like watching you guys.
Yeah.
Is because you can tell that it's not fabricated. It's just like you guys are having a shitload of fun when
Right.
it's working.
And we're always
you
like
know?
egging each other on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times what we'll do is like we'll have a joke and we'll go to do it, and then it's just like friends. It's like you try to take the joke further and further and to like continue to make each other laugh. And so a lot of times by the time we incorporate the joke in the video, it's on like Rev 7, you know, of the joke. And it's like, I think that's why people will think that we're very clever. It's just like, oh, that's such a funny joke. It's like, yeah, because we had that joke running for like a week.
Some of the jokes, like fucking like shifting, we've had going for like 15 years.
Yeah, well, these things are like getting worked on for like a year by the time they finally make it to a video. So I don't know that we could do it if it was like, all right, sit down,
It's like Friday's video.
come up with a
What are we doing?
script, and like
a
what's
writer's
funny.
room, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of incompatible with a regular release schedule because it's a little bit just kind of has to get batted around, and I don't know, it's inefficient. In some ways, it's very similar.
Doing this full time. Sorry, if you guys were doing this full time and all three you were like on top of each other,
Yeah.
probably you'd get more into a rhythm. But this is not your real life's blood. You're not.
Yeah,
We've
living off of it.
fantasized, like not fantasized, just like, man, imagine if like literally this was all we fucking did all day long.
Yeah.
Like, what could we do? But then it's always like, would it be like diminishing returns?
I think so. For me, I think it might be diminishing returns, but the bigger thing is that since we are friends first, that kind of naturally gates it. Because if we're in a business situation, I guarantee there'd be points where it's like, would you just shut the fuck up and do that? You know, it's like
right.
it turn into stuff where it's like we tend to preserve the friendship. And so I think that negates any possibility of us doing this. If it was 40 hours a week, I think the friendship would suffer.
Yeah,
I think it
for
just
sure.
couldn't.
Yeah.
I think it just
kinda
couldn't do it.
inevitable.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and then you have to split up income 3 ways somehow.
Yeah.
And then if you're really trying to do it, that gets tricky very fast.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, once money's involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty easy right now to split $60.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it because you want to do it, and I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing that you start to lose when you get into this for real. Like if you guys just like, you know what, I'm quitting my real job
Right.
or whatever, and we're gonna do this full time, your dynamic instantly changes because it's like there's more on the line than just
There's
like
pressure.
hanging out. You
Yeah,
know?
totally. Yeah. Okay. Here's something that we can spend a lot or a little time on. Talk a little bit about your car history and what you have now.
I'll make that simple for you. I had a lot of shit cars when I was young. Obviously, my parents had no money, no car knowledge, so like my ideal car at that, like my first car that wasn't a piece of shit was it was a Plymouth Sundance.
Oh,
Oh,
You
damn.
guys were talking about like the worst cars
John
ever.
will probably put in a picture.
Yeah, I'll put a picture, yeah.
Birds of a feather.
It was brutal. Yeah, my mom had like a Caravan, a LeBaron, so that was like kind of the two cars I learned on. So I'm like, oh, a
Big low power family.
and Caravan. The Sundance is like those, so that's a cool car. And it was just horrible. And
Sundance.
that's kind of how I got started until I was out on my own, and then I had realized I couldn't afford a car, so I bought the cheapest thing possible. And when you buy the cheapest thing possible, it doesn't work, as I found out. And I literally was fixing that car on the side of the road in parking lots for like 2 years. And then I started getting really serious about cars because I don't want to have a serious life like this.
Right.
Like, well, maybe a Chevy or a Ford Taurus or a lot of these like cars that were just absolutely built in mass quantity. Like there's got to be a better thing, and that's what my interest started getting more and more into, like real longevity, what's not designed to break.
Interesting.
These companies have high school students building these cars for them.
Right.
It's just so yeah, my past was a shit show, and my cars right now are just, I have an S2000 that needs some stuff done. I have a 98 Honda Civic with like 70,000 miles on it. And then I have
Coin
an
can relate to that.
Yeah, I had a 98 HX that I drove for like 7 or 8 years or something.
Was it a manual or an automatic?
Yeah, a manual. They're good car. I mean, like,
Yeah.
real men drive 98 Civics. I think that's the takeaway.
It's widely known.
I think that's what I'm.
And did you have problems with like the lean burn and all that stuff on there? Or?
Yeah, I had to change the ECU, and then it's like a 5-wire O2 sensor, and they like crack manifolds and stuff. It was like every problem that you can have with those I had.
Yeah.
But they're still, I mean, I've heard people say you drive a Honda until you're tired of looking at it. And it's like, it's true. You just drive it until you're done, because it's never gonna, you can't be like, I'm gonna drive it till it blows up. It's like, it's not gonna blow up.
Yeah.
It's never gonna blow up. You'll die before that thing does. So, yeah, I look back on it fondly.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's kind of how I look at the Civic. Like, I purposely bought it I think like a year and a half ago from some older couple that came from the Netherlands, and they bought it in '98 brand new, and they just kept it the whole time, and it just sat in the garage, and they only had 40,000 miles on it like 20 years later. And
Oh,
I'm like,
that's rad.
sold.
Yeah.
So I spent a shitload of money to get that car because I knew that I'll probably drive it for another 20 years.
Yeah, totally.
One.
Never die.
Yeah. So you have Civic and S2000? That's your lineup?
Civic S2000 and Ariel Atom.
I was going to ask, do you actually own the Ariel Atom?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, I do.
Damn.
That's pretty sweet.
That's rad.
Still technically a Honda, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is it a Toyota? I thought it was a Toyota.
What motor is in that? It's the K20 or whatever?
It's
Is that-
K24.
Oh, okay.
Dang.
Yeah.
No V8s, huh? It's a little
I had a
disappointing.
V8. I sold that M3, the E92.
Oh, yeah.
That was the last V8 car I had.
Why didn't you like that thing? I forget, because I'm starting to look at those.
Jones.
I knew that I wanted one, and I looked for the lowest mileage one that I could possibly find the last model year, and I paid like $46,000 for it. So I paid way too much for it, and it had 6,000 miles on it when I got it, and that thing was
Damn.
in the shop probably half the time I had it.
Oh, that sucks.
Bullshit, just bullshit, dude. Like I just got it out of the shop because the clutch slave cylinder leaked, and then it leaked on the clutch housing and saturated the clutch, so they had to do that. Got
Oh,
it back,
wow.
parked it for like 2 weeks because the weather was horrible. Took it back out, got a check engine light limp mode. I had to have it towed on the side of the road. It was just like nonsense.
Oh, that's crazy. I thought those things were pretty reliable. If that car was reliable, would you have kept it?
I think in retrospect, yeah, because I just got like the E9 or the E39. I thought to myself, well, the E39's great, but the E90, E92 is a better car for sure.
Yeah.
I would definitely go back to it again.
Did you get a M5? Is that what your next video is?
Yeah, the M5 is tomorrow, which would be it's
Whenever.
Yeah,
It'll be like a week and a half ago.
Weeks ago. Oh, that's
Go check
awesome.
it out,
Yeah, I've been waiting to see you drive that. Your approach to cars, though, is quite a bit different, at least from mine, because I've noticed that you're much more just like, you're kind of logical and to the point. Like, you'll get in an old car and you'll be like, yeah, this interior is like horseshit by today's standards. And I would never, like, I'd be like, oh, it's like quaint.
It's
and
romantic.
like, yeah, like I immediately get kind of, not emotional, but like, it's hard for me to approach stuff in that way. And you're just like, yeah, this like navigation system's like so outdated and terrible. And like, I would never like offend a car in that way. Like the E39, it's like, yeah, this is like dated. It's just like, this is some 90s, like, you know,
attempt at
whatever thing. Yeah.
We should ask him about steering feel.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what steering feel is? Because we
the made up thing that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a single review about a new car. It's like steering feel could be better. Like aside from the complete lack of, like, what the fuck are you looking for?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish.
Well, I think you'll like the M5 video because it's not the way that I typically do it. And you'll see that it's probably more the way you look at the car than.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Now I totally screw up what you just said, but yeah, I definitely come at it a different way.
That's cool.
But steering feel, yeah, it's kind of a joke. I don't know that people really particularly understand how to explain what steering feel is.
Yeah.
But I think the sad part is the way cars are designed is there's supposed to be no steering feel. Like they literally do not want people to feel anything through the steering wheel.
Well,
and that's
people also like people get so bent out of shape. It's like, yeah, the general public doesn't want to feel shit through the steering wheel. Like, why would you possibly think that's a good thing?
Yeah.
Like this vocal minority of people who aren't even going to buy the car.
They're talking about like a Honda Accord or something.
Yeah, it's like people just want this like box that is like silent that gets them where they want to go. I mean, most people who buy cars are not enthusiasts, so I don't know. Sometimes I feel bad for the amount of flack that manufacturers supposedly take for not making cars that are like enthusiast based enough.
Right.
Where it's like, are those people even going to buy it? No. So I don't know.
You're right.
They'll buy it used in 15 years.
Yeah, they're waiting for that trickle down. Third owner.
No, you're totally right. I agree with you. You can't. There's a no-win proposition for a lot of these manufacturers. And now that I've been doing this for long enough, I've had the opportunity to talk to enough of the engineers who work on these cars and product planners and all this. And it's like they kind of look at you and they're like, dude, if I could only tell you what I really want to tell you what I think about this. And then some do. And it's very eye-opening, and I think you'll see kind of like in some of these more recent videos in the past couple of years, I constantly talk about compromises that have to be made, and they're made because the very people that are buying them are the reasons why a lot of these cars suck. Yeah. It's not because they really want to make the cars suck, but they have to sell them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's like it's never. I always feel bad for like when people blame the engineers. Like, really, you think they didn't know how to make a better car? It's the consumer asking for a price point. You know, that's like driving this stuff.
Do you think there are any cars today that'll be like the aforementioned '98 Civic, where you could just like own it pretty much trouble free for a couple decades, or is that era just like totally gone?
I think there's a few cars that are left. There's a few, and you just have to hope that their motors are going to hold up. But I think I did one on the new Kia Forte. They actually have a non-direct injected motor with a manual transmission option that is just all pretty much as basic as possible. Mm-hmm. That's it. I mean, that's the closest thing you're going to get.
Straight out of the 90s. Yeah, I think maybe even like a Tacoma or something is. I guess that would be.
Those are pretty close.
That's why they hold their value so well, because people assume they're going to own it forever. And
yeah, people give Toyota a bunch of shit for being kind of boring and old school, and then like I feel like as I got older, I'm like, wait, they're really reliable. Like, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's totally an age thing. That's something you got to put in perspective. You know, you look at a lot of these car channels, and you can definitely who they're trying to cater to is the younger audience when everything's cool.
Yeah, right.
They make everything.
That's cool.
Man, you know?
Yeah, right. That's where all the clicks are, apparently.
I love the shifter. I love the steering wheel. I love the headlights. It's all cool.
Yeah. One other thing, just as an aside, that I often appreciate about your reviews is your I think our shared obsession with the shit black levels on LCDs that they put in cars.
Yeah.
That one just bugs me to no end. Like when you're at night, like nighttime driving. Here's the other thing. If you want to we get real obscure on this podcast. When they'll have a screen off option, and some of them actually cut power to the screen, and some of them just go black.
Yeah.
You mean gray?
Yeah, on a screen with bad black levels. It's like, that's got to be one of my most obscure complaints. But I'll drive a car that actually cuts power to the screen on screen off, and I'm like, I would consider this car.
Yeah, unless you need the screen to do like 90% of the like AC controls or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, and you like like I'll bring some of this stuff up to manufacturers or product planners. I'm like, why do you leave the inverter on? Why do you have this? Why do you give the option to turn a screen off, but the screen's still on? Like from a design perspective, why? And they just look at you cross-eyed. They're like, dude, do you think anybody cares about that shit? I'm like, well, I guess you're right.
The people demand an answer.
Silent majority.
Let me talk to your superior. Here's another question that I'm sure everyone's going to be rolling their eyes about. What do you think about Tesla?
Rephrase that question.
All right, let me narrow it down. What do you think about the 3? Have you driven one?
Yes.
Do you like it?
As an electric car, if you're just talking about an electric car, yes, I guess. You have to you really have to ask specific.
Well, I guess that's enough because I'm
Coin is
like
a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that thing. From like every time I have someone who has one and I borrow it occasionally, and like every time I drive it, I'm just blown away, and I'm just convinced that like they're on a path to just dominate the landscape because they like that's how much of a fanboy I am.
What is it about those cars? What is it specifically about them that it gives you such the warm and fuzzies?
It feels like they, whatever their design process is, they prioritize getting it right, whatever that means. And so every kind of decision about the car has a consistent vision. Like with the 3, it was like, we're going to simplify the driving process. And through that car, it's just, does this contribute to the driving process being simpler or not? And if it didn't, they cut it out. And if it did, and it's just like every part of it feels that way, from the way that you start it to operate it to the way that it's like built, the simplicity of it, it's driving costs down. It's just like everything about it, it feels like they had a unified vision for what that car should be. And a lot of other cars, it feels like, like 18 different departments designed this. And, there's kind of like some parts of it I like, some parts of it I don't. So, I don't know. It just feels very different from my experience with a lot of other cars. So, plus I have a huge crush on Elon Musk. So, I think
you're an Elon Musk guy? Or were you a Steve Jobs guy?
Yeah.
he likes the underground kind of,
I like the underdogs.
Yeah, the guys you don't hear a whole lot about.
Yeah, the kind of lesser known CEOs.
I think, I have people ask me all the time why I don't do Teslas, and I think partly because you can't look at a Tesla the same way you look at other cars. It's a vehicle designed by tech people for iPhone users.
Yeah.
Really, it's the iPhone equivalent of a car, and when you take a different approach to building a car like they have, you also have to take a different approach of how you measure it and how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I have not been able to really figure out how I want to do that. And kind of, I personally, I think they're on the right path. They're like what they've been able to do in the American market, how they've been able to build things here, their battery infrastructure from a technical perspective, it's amazing. But again, I think it's tech people building a car, and as long as that car you still have to drive it, there's things that they don't understand about it. Much like regular, like Toyota, Honda, Ford, GM, they're car companies trying to be tech companies now. they don't know what the hell they're doing. And I think there needs to be some kind of like middle ground that they haven't found yet.
Yeah.
To kind of take it more mainstream. So I'm kind of on the sidelines waiting to see if this, if it's going to turn into a shit show in like 5 years when these things have miles on them for real.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. One thing that does crack me up about that car though is like when new cars will come out and it doesn't have like a volume knob. People are like, what the fuck? They like lose their shit. And then Tesla comes out and has like nothing in the interior. And people are like, this is the best car ever. It's like, why do they get away with that? Like,
well, it's because you come at it, the people that look at it as a tech toy. It's not a car.
Yeah.
And if literally I would say if it was a self-driving car, I think that's the perfect platform for it. The way they do the electronics, the interior, all of that is just ideal. But if you have to drive it, I don't like simple functions that are relegated to this giant touchscreen that I could literally. I don't want to go off on a tangent on this, but I have a new slider, right? And they've gone away from a physical controller to using an app to use it. I did a video for the owner of this company. I'm like, this is how I used to do it, and it literally took me 3 seconds.
Right.
This is how it takes me now, and it takes me 25 seconds, and it takes me at least 30 seconds longer to do every shot because the app is cool, but it's not as functional to do your everyday tasks.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I take exception with a lot of that.
Yeah, let me wait for Bluetooth to connect. And then like,
or not connect.
Oh, it needs an update. Better not use my wireless headphones because they'll mess with the connection. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. One thing that I'm curious about, or I think we're curious about, is when we make videos, we pull very few punches. Because we're not really trying to be on anyone's good side. It's like pretty much every time we cross a bridge, we burn it. Basically, like that's just kind of the reality of. It's like we're never going back to the quail. Like that's just not.
We can like sneak in with someone else.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go through some side door. I mean, it's funny about that one. It's like last year we went in as press, and this year our press credentials were denied. Yeah. So it's like, well, but we went in as a. We'll go in through the front door then. But I think what I'm curious about is like, how much do you find that you have to compromise your kind of natural voice when you're producing your content?
A lot.
You think so?
Almost, I would say 60%. Is not real, and it's not real because the people that control the industry are it's a people-driven industry, and it's a small circle of people that every single person knows each other. So like in the Midwest, there's power brokers like everywhere, and if you piss one of them off, whether you're friends with the other one or not, like from another company, you give this person a hard time, and their bosses come to them and say, what the hell happened? What's going on with this? They get burned, and then they talk to everybody else, and it's just dominoes that fall.
Jeez.
And it's just that simple. And they will tell you, they'll tell you, well, that's not the way we work. That's not the way it really works. We want you to be open and in free press. But we've had these. I just had this conversation last week when it came to like some Ford stuff. I had the Ranger, and the Ranger is garbage. And I've had people email me that from behind the scenes, which I can't share some of the stuff. I've had people email me behind the scenes that have inside information that have basically reiterated that and worse. And in good conscience, I'm like, look, I just have to say it.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to go on a press trip for Ford again. I'm never probably going to get access to cars again. And it's just, you call these reps, they won't answer you. They won't answer your emails. They won't talk to you. And then they'll talk to the next person. And it's just, so what is the media for? And that's one of the topics I wanted to talk about. We get these cars, or the media's involved in doing videos or stories, and you are kept in a very small box. You are an extension of their marketing.
Yeah.
They're not spending thousands of dollars to give you a car for a week or whatever it is, or spending $5,000 or $10,000 to send you on a press trip for you to go and be like,
this thing sucks.
This piece of shit.
Yeah.
It's just not the way it's structured. And even if they didn't pay, like let's say I had to pay to get a car for a week,
Right.
or I had to pay for these press trips and I still trashed it, why would they want you there when there's 1,000 other people that would be in line
Yeah.
to go and spin it the way that they want it spun?
Whatever you want, boss.
Right. No, and
Yeah.
it's true, you know, there's how many, if you guys, for example, many people would be like, I'd love to do what you're doing. I'd love to have the cars. I would have loved to go on to Monterey or whatever it is.
Right.
And so media it's a very, very difficult pill for me to swallow. And I know there's a fine line that I have to walk, but every week, every month that passes by, I feel worse mentally from doing this stuff. And I know it's just cars, but the fact that you can't be completely honest or you can't be real about a lot of this stuff without filtering it through like this filter of PR bullshit, it's making it a lot more difficult for me to continue doing it.
It's interesting. It almost like the way you describe it, it's like you're basically a subcontractor for their marketing department at this point.
Right.
It's like they've just offloaded their marketing costs.
Yeah, now instead of it being internal, they just use YouTube
This
channels.
is turning into a way for them to circumvent the cost of healthcare by pushing it out onto other people. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I guess the
It's pretty
exceptions is
wild.
like Top Gear. It's like when they're so big that like we don't need to like suck some company. We don't need to rub them the right way to get the cars. Like
Yeah.
we can acquire these any way we want and say whatever we want because it's entertaining.
Yeah, it's like you would
You
have to
be at such a high level.
you'd have to get to a level, or the other thing I've thought about, I mean, you run the risk of basically just everyone hating you. That's what, like, if you just go full rogue, it's like, okay, this guy is like essentially blacklisted. But there are ways to do it where you're like borrowing private cars and stuff and reviewing them, and it just depends.
Which is, that's the problem. That's a whole different problem. The M5 that I just did, the car's mint, but
nice.
the owner loves the car,
Yeah.
and he runs Chicago Auto Pros. It's the most perfect example of an M5 you're possibly going to find, and then we are so excited to drive it, and the third and fourth gear synchros are gone on it.
Yeah.
Just totally gone, and the guy just doesn't use those gears, or he doesn't, drive through those gears, and it's totally normal to him.
Just a little asterisk
Or-
next to them.
Yeah.
Or if I put the guy's the paint's perfect, so if there's any scratch or anything you put on it, it's a
Right.
big deal. Or, the previous owners, they're really great, but, they have to sign waivers. They want to be involved in the process of filming.
Yeah.
I can't take it for 3 days to do a real production on it. It's like, then, do I travel to go out of state? Then I can't put a car on a lift. It's like, the press car thing gives me the ability to do the production that I want to do, but then you're basically selling your soul
Yeah.
to be able to,
Yeah.
there's just no winning situation unless you had the money, like you
Right.
mentioned Top Gear.
Yeah.
That's all publicly funded, and they can just be like, oh fuck it, we got
Right.
millions of dollars.
Yeah,
we can
and
just
they
piss
don't
away.
have advertisers that are like riding on them. Like
Yeah. That's
a
true.
BMW commercial is going to go in between segment 1 and 2, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I don't know if you have an answer to this, but what are your strategies for avoiding burnout?
Time management. That's the straight answer. Like, I talked to a business coach and some counseling this past month about how the hell do you do this and not literally be miserable.
Yeah.
What kills me is when I'm doing 12, 15 hours a day, which I will, because that's the type of person I am. But then I look at what suffers. Like I said, I think earlier, I'll look in the mirror and I look 10 years older.
Yeah, right.
Just because I'm so stressed, or my relationships are in the sewer, with pretty much everybody. I'm short-tempered. It comes out in the videos. It's just, I don't know. Time management's the only way to do it, and you understand what your limitations are, what your strengths are, and what you are, and what you're really playing to. So I had that hard lesson with this Bondurant video I just did, which is, a whole thing about driving school, learning how to drive. And I can tell you, nobody gives a fuck about that. Nobody gives a shit about it. They want to see new cars. They want to see
Right.
people doing stupid shit, making jokes or going sideways, and the gimmicks. That's what sells. So I have to understand that box that I'm in. It's like you guys.
Yeah.
You know, what you guys can do what you want to do sometimes, and nobody's going to watch it.
Right.
But you know exactly what sells, and you know what angle to go that sells, and sometimes that's not really what you want to do.
Yeah.
But so sorry, I'm rambling.
No.
Well, I don't think we. The part of the reason too, where we're like, oh, we know what we could do to make money. It's like if we started doing what you do, it wouldn't be better than yours. It's like we're kind of relegated to what we do because this is all we can do.
We just can.
This is the best version of us producing content. It's not like, oh, but we could make some car reviews that like,
Yeah.
You probably could, and they'd be amazing. And I think that, like, watching your stuff, I think the big thing that caught me right away from your older videos, especially, even like the Chad thing, it's funny, it's original, it's a spoof, and you guys have this like jackass sense to the car scene. It's like almost like kind of what they were doing when they were really young.
yeah,
It's genuine, it's trolly, and I think you'd be just as successful as like Donut Media in a different way, like the other side of Donut Media. But you don't have the time to commit to it, and that's what would kill you doing it on the internet. I mean, you could do it once in a while, but you're never going to make any money off of it.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we've never been like, okay, next week we need a video. What are we doing next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The week after that.
I feel like we are still finding our groove. Because honestly, the Monterey video, usually when we release a video, it's extremely positive in the first few days because it's our subscriber base who's watching it. And it's like, I mean, you're the same way, it's like there's people who watch your video like 2 minutes after it posts and they're just like, awesome, man, loved it. And it's like, dude, it's 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, you've got super fans and they're heartwarming. And so we'll release a video that's very positive, and then like as the week goes on, the kind of more like casual people will like stumble upon it, and it'll shift extremely negative because they're like outside the joke or whatever. And we're used to that. The Monterey video has been positive the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's literally a first for us. We've never made a video where it's like it's nothing but positive.
Yeah, the trajectory is like a straight, 45
it's
degree
just like
curve.
Something that requires that sort of just time commitment.
Right. Yeah, it's like everyone gets it. And so, but to me, I mean, it seems obvious, but I was like, oh, right, we should just make videos that everyone likes. It's like, this is like revelation.
That's how you made it big.
Yeah, it's like, oh, right, I forgot that like the purpose of some of our videos is to like piss people off.
Right.
Who don't get. So I don't know, it's like we've been doing this a while, but we're still kind of feeling it out.
The Monterey video is different, though.
Yeah.
The Monterey video had a different tone to it, which I don't know if you kind of picked up on that. And it was, look, we're self-aware of what we're doing.
Yeah.
It came across as genuine, like, look, we're just you told the story, like we don't know what the fuck we're doing,
right?
Which immediately gives you credibility because people are not intimidated or you're not trying to do something.
Yeah.
So you let that out, and secondly, you're saying, look, we wanted a troll car, and that's exactly what you did, and you took this very like kind of, I don't want to say heartwarming, but like a very warm feeling from the fact that you guys put this all together as friends, and you really tried to make this happen, and you didn't really care in the end whether you cared if you got in.
Yeah.
But it was more about the journey and the storytelling that was very accessible to. I think it's obviously everybody's going to tell you this. It's underviewed, but it has the accessibility there that some of the spoof, the weird humor, and the obscurity shit doesn't. Which I'm on the same. I love that.
Yeah.
But people don't get it.
Yeah.
People they don't get anything.
Right.
But that people get if they understand car stuff. Which,
Yeah.
I hats off to you guys. It was like I said, I wasn't joking when I thought it was like one of the best car things I've seen in probably years, to be honest.
Thank you,
Man,
So
that's
I
a
hope
big
people continue
compliment.
to see it.
Yeah, we appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I feel like there's something there. I mean, it is related to my next question. It's like, what do you think would take you? Well, you can answer this. You can answer one of two questions or both. Either, what do you think would take what you're doing to the next level? Like, what do you think is that next thing? Or do you feel like the path you're naturally on right now is just leading you in a direction that you want to go, where if you extrapolate it years from now, you're like stoked about the trajectory?
I think the whole YouTube thing, and at least from a car perspective, is it's a bubble. I kind of say this, and I don't mean to sound negative about it, but it's a very here today, gone tomorrow industry. You're popular for a certain amount of time, and you become disposable, and people get tired of you. It's like musicians, actors, movies, TV shows. You have a life expectancy with this stuff, and you have to figure out what you're going to do next. So for me, my big thing is, how am I going to reinvent what I'm doing? And I don't think there's and I've been questioned about this, like Micah from Kelly Blue Book. He's like, dude, you can constantly reinvent yourself. There's always new ways to do stuff. But if the car is at the heart of the story, you know, there's only so much shit you can do with it. So for me, like, how do I do this different? How am I going to evolve this? And then what happens when it just stops? What am I going to do from there? And I think I'm super passionate about like the tech. I'm super passionate about how to make things better for people. The people that are spending so much money to buy these things, that are going in debt for them. I feel like there's some value there to help another company or something if this goes bust. But the YouTube thing, I want to reach my peak of what I think I can do with it. And continue making videos that I'm passionate about, and when that ends, I'm done. I'm done. And I'm like, I feel like I have to, like, I'm at that point of making another decision in the next year of whether I can continue to do this and be happy with doing it, and actually helping people. And if I'm no longer doing that, then I'm out. I don't have any interest in doing it just for the sake of it. Like right now, I envy you guys so much because you don't have to deal with that. You're just sitting there as three friends that want to be there,
right?
And I don't have that, so
yeah.
I would rather be sitting where you're sitting right now, to be honest. So I hopefully it continues to grow and I can make an impact and try to help people with the stuff, also keeping it real that it's car shit. It's not like you know, it's just not like super important. So.
Well, fucking come out to California. You can literally.
We got the space.
There's a spot at the table.
I'll go under the table.
You can literally. I mean, I really think. I've said this before. Like, people ask about our setup and like the share of responsibility between the three of us, and I've said before, it's like we're actually. There's a missing link that would take us to the next level. Because it's like we bring a lot to the table, but it's like there's not really a like taskmaster, project manager thing that would kind of like
we never had like a whatever PR, like someone that actually cares about spreading it around.
Yeah, we're bad at that
we're just
too.
Like, we don't want to make an Instagram. Like, who wants to do that?
Yeah, but like I actually think you, as an addition to this lineup, would take it to the next level.
Yeah.
I really think so, because it has to be the right fold of they bring the skills, but also they get the humor. Because it can. I mean, there's tons of people who are organized or whatever, you know, but. Yeah, you roll that around in your head when you finally like blow it all up.
I get the humor. Yeah, and when I blow this thing up, it's like I can't fix it. Yeah.
When you burn all your bridges.
When you get into your Civic and you just drive west.
Pack up.
Come to the land of 65-degree days.
Yeah,
February.
there's a couch here for you. We'll reinvent it.
I'm curious. You mentioned your driving school videos and how everyone hated them. Honestly, those have been my favorite videos recently, just because Garrett and I have been getting into autocross and track days the past couple of years. And honestly, like I am shit at heel towing, and so every single time I watch one of your videos and you're just doing it effortlessly, I'm super jealous. So I've been watching those to try to figure out a way to practice. Even just using like a PlayStation wheel and pedals and stuff like that. But when you made those, was that like more enjoyable than your typical reviews? Just because it was. Did you feel more passionate about that than just the formula you've been doing for years?
I guess yes and no. Like the Bondurant thing, we approached them and like, hey, we want to tell the story. We want to do a driving series to show kind of like what goes into this stuff, because so many people get so obsessed with buying cars, modifying the shit out of them, and then they don't like they just I don't know, it's just weird to me. So I'm like, how can we tell this story about the benefit of learning some of this stuff, these skills that you take for life, and then talking to the people? And when we got there, it was like, holy shit, these people are like, they have a purpose. Like, I don't have a purpose. But these guys, like, they want to help people learn how to drive, and they were so passionate about it. I felt so good about telling the story, and then, you know, the cost of like going out there and all the equipment and just the time, and I'm like, that's where the business part started to hack into what I really wanted to do, right? Like, you're crossing that line between, oh, I really want to tell this story, and then you look at your bank account and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, it's like, I really loved it, but in the end, I'm so bitter. Like, I'm so bitter that, you know, like, you have to play the game that everybody has to play still. Like, I know that if I would have just taken a car, crashed it into a tree, and had a girl running out naked, I would have had 4 million views, and the video would have been like a minute long.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know what the formula is, and it makes me so bitter that that's all that, like, not all that people care about, but that's the formula to success.
It gets the numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of weird because you can make certain videos that are low viewership, but it's like certain people's, we've done this before, and some of your videos are like this, where people watch them and it's like, you know, they're just like, oh my God, thank God this exists. Like, this is insane. And it's not wide reaching. It's not a 1 million view video, but for the people who do get to see it, they're like, this is incredible. You know, it's like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. I think the way to make that stuff successful, which hasn't been cracked yet, and I'm not sure if it's a phase or what, but it's like, how do you get those core people to pay some amount of money? Like, if you got everyone who watched that video to pay 99 cents to view it, it'd totally be, you know, it'd be perfect and amazing.
Right.
But,
well, everybody's used to the everything's free model.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just a society problem, and where we're at, like, you know, back, and I brought this up in, I think, another podcast, in your early 2000s, we didn't have free email, free this, free everything, and everything was kind of like, you wanted it, you paid for it, and then when all the free services came in with social media, it's like, oh, I can have all this shit for free, and then you go to the reviews. That's the best part. When you go and look at comments and reviews, I can't believe I had to do this. Yeah. You know, dude, you didn't pay a fucking dime for it, and you're like complaining like somehow you have the rights to like, you know, have an opinion about it.
You wasted my time.
yes.
They're complaining about wasting their time by wasting more of their time to comment on it. Yeah.
Right.
Worst 8 minutes of my life.
Especially on our final race video, like, it gets all these views from like India and stuff, and some of the views are like, bullshit, stupid.
Yeah.
And it's from like an 11-year-old somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, kids, bless the internet for allowing children from across the globe to talk shit to us about something that we...
And they're like avatars, like a Roblox. Like, it's like, hey, I'm sorry.
This is shit and you should be ashamed of yourself. It's like, sorry, dude. I'll try harder next time. Just gotta have a
But
thick
that's
skin.
the beauty of trolling. I think, you know, like, when you get to that point where you're okay with teasing the monkeys,
Yeah, right.
and you're like, you basically know exactly what you're doing and who you're triggering, and you garner the people that appreciate it are gonna love it, and then the people that don't get it are gonna be like tearing you apart. Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't gotten death threats yet for certain shit.
Yeah, I know.
Funniest thing was the first video that we did, like, more than any other, was like, let's fucking piss off and confuse.
Let's purely, that Mustang versus FRS, like, you couldn't tell it was sarcastic. I mean, it was like, the other thing was deep sarcasm. It was such a weird video. Okay, so let's switch gears just a little bit.
Clever. Nice one.
What is the most fun car you've driven recently? And here's another way to think of that. Something that, like, you would want to own. Like, if money was no object kind of thing. If you're just like, damn, I just want this in my garage.
You know, there's probably only a handful. Let me just put the two cars that I would like to own is a 458 and a I really still like the GT350 Mustang, even though somewhat loathe that car.
Why?
There's just, I don't know. It feels like such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about the Mustangs. They feel like pieces of shit, but there's something undescribably fun about driving it. I don't know what it is.
You're
just the standard 350 or the R? Or
I don't really care. The motor.
Either one, yeah.
Really? You feel like they're equal in coolness? Because I haven't driven either.
But it's been a hot topic.
I guess
Yeah.
you could take I would guess if I didn't care about the money part, I would just take an R because I would actually use the R part of it on a track.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can get the same sensation out of the regular one. The motor and trans is the big thing about it.
Really?
They're down to like 45 grand.
Yeah, they're getting realistic. The regular one.
Yeah, they're getting realistic, and you have to have like a whole garage full of spare motors for it.
Are they? Are those motors unreliable? I haven't heard anything
I've heard
about.
some stories of people blowing them up.
Oh no, really?
Every single person I've met that has one at an event, they all say the same thing. I'm on my second motor, or this motor's going out.
What? No.
It doesn't matter. They just
that's too bad.
And that's from just daily driving, or they take it to tracks?
Just daily driving.
Jesus.
Like seriously, just any. It doesn't really matter. It's just that I think there's a defect in the design that they're working on.
That's fucking annoying.
It's really shitty. But even that said,
Hey, it's still
You roll the dice. Is what you're saying.
roll those dice. He's a gambling
warranty.
man. Have you driven a 6-speed Hellcat, a stick Challenger? Yeah. What'd you think about that?
they had it at Bondurant when we were there.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
Oh,
what
yeah,
you
that's
train in, is that car, and that was the first time I'd been in a manual version.
Yeah. What'd you think?
And it's got a Viper trans in it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like we thought, there's no way you'd want a manual in this car. It's too fast. And then you drive it, you're like, yeah.
This thing rules.
It is. It's so fun. It's so badass, and it's badass, and not like that traditional like sports car feel. It just you get so much of your senses like ignited by this car. Even though you measurably, objectively, it's just not the greatest thing. It's like the GT350. It's the same thing. You feel like there's so many things they did wrong, but when you drive it, you're like, I want it.
You forget about it.
That's how I have not driven a 350, but when we did a video with a Hellcat, and it was a 6-speed, and I came away just like, this motor is like a legend. This thing is just like, if you ever looked at the dyno on one of those, it's like a 45-degree angle for power, and then it's like a tabletop for the torque. It's like, how did they make this thing so good? It's like, where do you go from here? There's no. This is insane. I just fell in love with that thing.
And just the gearing on it, like first gear goes all the way to 60, so just driving around town.
So you just feel like a fucking boss in that thing. Like, I just loved that thing. It's a lot of money, but it felt like the kind of fun where it's like, this is not going to get outdated. Like, this kind of fun doesn't wear off. This is just fun. But yeah, I haven't driven a 350. I'm curious if I would have that same kind of reaction to it or not.
The 350's not as it doesn't have that sense of like fun that the Hellcat or the Red Eye has, but it's different. Like, it's that sound and vibration that you get from these cars that people don't understand. Like, I'm not a Mustang, I'm not a muscle car guy, but when you get behind the wheel of some of these, when they're done right, like those cars, man, do they just, you have to appreciate how ridiculous they are. Yeah. And that's just all it is. It's the human. Yeah. You're a car person. Yeah. It like connects to every sense.
Yeah. It's so clear when some of those cars are just made by, you're just like, the team clearly had car people on it. Yeah. Like, they clearly were just like, they would want to own this thing. You know, it's like, it's made to whoever, there's a target audience, but this thing was not made to a focus group. Right. It was made to people who are just like, this needs to be a badass vehicle. And it's like, it shows. You drive it and you're like, yeah, you nailed it.
It's kind of like the FUBU of cars.
It's been said many times.
Exactly, yeah. It's a common.
Well, that's exactly when I talked to the SRT guys. I talked to all the people that were involved in making the Demon and then the Red Eye, they all said the same shit. I'm like, what did you leave off the table? They're like, what are you talking about? We wanted more horsepower. They wanted a 1,000 horsepower engine on the street.
Yeah.
And that was their biggest thing. They didn't care about anything else but making more power. And I think that's what makes it funny, because it's just that was their singular focus.
Jeez, that's awesome.
And then I love they just took that motor and just throw it in everything now.
It's a great motor.
Yeah.
I mean, go for it.
Yeah.
And I suspect, I haven't checked, but my feeling is that motor is going to be reliable for a long time. Even at 700 horsepower, it felt under stressed.
Right.
It just feels like this fucking monster of a motor that's going to be around for a while. And it's simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't rev that high. It's like,
Well, as simple as supercharging gets. Yeah.
yeah, but it's an overhead
Right, yeah,
valve, versus GT350. I'm like, I don't know, man. That's why I'm disappointed to hear that, because I thought, because the Boss 302 before it, when they did that motor, they were like, you're not going to blow this motor up. Like, they went to insane lengths to make that motor durable.
Plus it was based on a fairly common motor. They just kind of
yeah, sure, but it's I think they ran it on a dyno for 24 hours at full load or something. It's just stock. You're not going to blow this thing up. And so I had assumed they did the same amount of durability testing to the 350. And a lot of the stuff I've read, they're like, there's some weird vibration in this thing at half the RPM range and stuff. It's like, oh, that's a little scary.
Well, the Coyote motor in the regular Mustang GT, that's kind of okay, you want a bulletproof motor before they went to direct injection. I mean, that's literally, you could drive that like a straight monkey and not do anything
Maniac.
to it. But the GT350, they're like, oh, we want a flat plane crank, we want it to rev higher. It's like
Dang.
a Ferrari on a discount
Yeah,
price. It's like, dude,
right.
It's not, but
something's going to give.
Yeah. But something's going to go wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm glad that you validated my Hellcat obsession.
Yeah.
Because to me, this is going to sound, maybe this won't sound crazy, but to me, the E39 M5 has a very Hellcat feel. It's just dialed back to 7. But it's they even look similar from the front. And it's just torque everywhere kind of thing. And so I've always liked that. I like that because it's not a track car. That's not a track car. It's just a cruise downtown and punch it from stop sign. It's that's where the E39 M5 is great. Is 3/10 on the street.
Yeah.
You're just second gear rolling on it. And the Hellcat is that, but more. Mm-hmm. And without 4 different cam position sensors and fucking rubber in the driveline and shit. I mean, there's always something to replace on that car. And so I was I don't know, the Hellcat appeals to me in that way. It's an American modern E39 M5 reimagined kind of. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
I mean, we brought that up in the video because we just got done, I think, doing every M5, and I can't remember which one it was. I think it wasn't the F10, which was the V10, or no, wait.
E60 is the V10.
The E60 is the V10, and then the F is the F10. The
F10 came next. Yeah.
Okay, so it was a twin turbo.
Yeah.
So we drove the twin turbo and we thought, okay, this is a modern Hellcat.
Yeah.
Or and I felt your car, that felt like a library to me. I don't know what it is. It feels so refined. I mean, the motor's great, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just that I didn't expect the level of refinement out of that thing. It's just crazy how smooth it is.
It was definitely that era is popular for a reason from BMW. It's they were getting something right. Because mid 90s BMW is kind of junky. It's mid 90s German in general, early mid 90s. It's it's cool, but they really started.
It's Honda in the 90s.
Yeah, Honda in the 90s was badass. And then it's late 90s, early 2000s German stuff, E55 AMG and stuff like that. It's those are killer cars. And then now they're, I don't know, they're still cool, but they're very different. I don't know how to describe it.
Blended together with everything.
Yeah.
Hyundai and Kia are kind of building similar stuff.
Yeah, do you feel I just have this sensation that almost all car brands kind of have this homogenous feel, and I assume it's just because it's like German cars don't really feel German the way they used to, where it's like, yeah, they're probably hiring designers from everywhere, and they've got like a design studio in Palo Alto or something. It's like everything is kind of global, maybe to our benefit in some ways, but I don't know. Do you notice something different or something similar with that, or it's like they don't really have the same?
I think the problem, it's not a problem, it's just the only way these companies stay in business is by creating global architectures.
Yeah,
so
right.
you have a front wheel, rear wheel drive architecture that you split the platforms off into 6 different cars, and every single car feels the same. So when you start sharing platforms, no matter what you do with the little things, these cars tend to have the exact same feel, and they become more sterile.
Right.
They become more isolated, more numb, and making fun of the steering feel thing again. It's part of that experience where you could have 7 cars that literally all perform the same, and everything that's different is electronic tuning of stability control, throttle, like little small things, so it's easier to manufacture, and then every company copies each other. So you don't particularly, and you have to, because if you go kind of on your own path in a way, then the main consumer is like, ooh, that's too far away from this safety zone, and then you lack the creativity. And anytime somebody goes off and does it, especially sports cars, you sell 1,000 to 5,000 a month, and then you just lost hundreds of millions of dollars in development. There's just no purpose in doing that anymore. So cars are very cardboard.
Yeah, Supra is kind of a good example of that. It's like, how many of these things did you think they were going to sell? Like they're not going to make some one-off chassis for it's like 2,000 car a month.
That's why I still don't know how Mazda is able to build the Miata.
Yeah, I think because they already built it.
Dedicated platform to some tiny 2-seat sports car.
Yeah.
That's who I'm going out there to see in Irvine. I'm doing a retrospective on every generation Mustang with all their engineers. So I'm going to be doing this like documentary thing for
Mustang
all
or
those
Miata?
cars. Miata, sorry.
Miata.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Similar. Same thing.
Similar. But that's kind of the discussion is like, how do you, it's corporate culture, obviously, what's important to them. But, how do you get your money to focus on these and make these cars still make money back or lose money?
Yeah.
And then, what's the game? And I think we already know that answer is you have to have a volume seller. You have to have the kind of mass market thing to fund the other things that you want. And that's just common business in any company. But I'm glad they're still doing the Miata.
But I've even thought the same thing about the Mustang, which is kind of, especially when they came out with this new platform, and the only car they use it is the Mustang. There's no sedan. There's no
Mike has talked over and over about why don't they use the Mustang to make a rear-wheel drive small sedan,
or even just. It's weird to have a dedicated platform for
nothing else.
An essentially 2-seater fun car, when like every other company's even GM, they use their stuff for everything.
Yeah. Well, they're doing that now with the Tang, right? Don't they have isn't the new Exploder?
I was going to say, don't they have a Mustang-inspired SUV?
Like electric thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it actually shares anything.
I don't know. Sweet. Oh, man. What about the shittiest new car you've reviewed? You got an answer there.
So I just had these are interesting discussions because I always have them. We're always talking about like the worst shit ever. And I could never get cars from GM, big surprise. But when I did get offered cars from them, it was the Chevy Trax.
Oh,
and like these piles.
Now you're talking about
damn. now we're talking. Now we're getting into it.
Even if somebody gave it to you for free.
Yeah, right.
So the whole thing is like, if you hate a car, don't do a project on them because you're just gonna bury yourself.
Yeah.
So the Trax is horrendous.
I think we just found the thumbnail for this.
Yeah.
This episode.
Done.
It is horrendous on every single measurable level. The EcoSport is horrendous on every single level. And then I think the Ranger was really bad too. I know that's not nearly as bad as those cars, but the Ranger was really bad.
Do you think part of that is your expectations going into it, or is it just like objectively?
objectively, there's so many problems with it.
Jeez.
Like, they just don't put any energy into it. It's like one of those cars, all three of those, purely exist because they didn't have a vehicle in that segment.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how do we, from a business, like, well, we got to get something in this segment, call up Zheng Hong, China, and see what they can, fucking churn out.
Put these CAD files on Fiverr. Let's see what kind of. Oh man, let's put the bid out.
Shit together in the computer from what they can pull out of their scrap heap, dude, and then they throw it together, put the shittiest project togetder, and then they charge people money for it that is literally going to be in the grave in a couple years.
It's like unpaid interns over the summer. You're going to be working on the tracks.
the lead engineer on the EcoSport is like unpaid.
Yeah, unpaid intern.
No, it's true though, but like that's what I'm finding out is that a lot of these companies are putting their most junior level engineers and design teams that are almost on an intern level.
Sure.
I make a joke about that. That's who's on these smaller tier projects that have emerging market products, which is fine. I get it that not everybody has money for a new car, and I don't want to come off like a dick. Like I've been there where even $5,000 was too much money for a car. So I get the fact that you have to have cheaper products, but when the cheaper products are literally as good as a pair of dirty underwear, like you can't in any good conscience say, dude, go out and buy this. Go find a used car.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
gonna be better than that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the thing about the EcoSport that's the worst is like that. Not only is it bad on its own, that represents like Ford's new strategy. Let's stop selling our other we don't need the Focus, but we have the EcoSport.
Yeah, that's like the only thing they left in America, right?
Yeah.
They specifically brought that, I think, to have a cheap.
Oh, really?
That is the cheapest Ford you can buy.
That's their flagship
any type
entry level.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like someone that would have bought whatever, a Fusion or Focus.
Yeah.
We do have the EcoSport.
A Fiesta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair to them, the American car makers have had some serious issues with small car sales forever. They haven't seemed to be able to get a winning formula. So if you're going to look at it from a business side, is somebody going to choose a Trax or a EcoSport over a Fiesta? Probably in our current market.
Yeah, right.
What's the point of having them if people aren't buying them? Just to say, well, we have a small car.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I get it. It's just I'm more frustrated, I think, with the people who are like society of car buying public is going down the gutter.
I'm just mad at everyone involved.
We always we have this text conversation. We've posted a lot of pictures of EcoSports and Buick Encores.
Yeah, every time we see one on the road.
Yeah.
And just because they're so kind of dorky looking.
Yeah.
And we always just make up this joke I'm coming back from the dealer. I want to bring the new car by and show you what I got. And we just post a picture of one of those driving. Just this stupid scenario that
Scott, come outside, see what I got. I'm rolling up right now. See what it is. Oh shit! You want to go for a ride? No.
Come outside and check it out.
Not really.
You couldn't pay me to go for a ride.
Yeah.
And you're of all the cars that exist, this is the one that you got.
That's the one you picked.
Yep, and there's people buying them, and I get it. Some people just don't know any better, and it's not like you don't want to talk bad about them because there's literally people that either grew up in a GM or a Ford family too that may have family members that work for those companies, and they get a good discount, and they're like, oh, we need a cheap car, and it's like, oh, well, the only car we have that's cheap is a fucking red line Trax edition. So they're like, oh shit, that's what goes in their garage. And,
I bought you a new car, Timmy. Happy graduation. Oh boy.
Oh, what the fuck?
Trax. Jeez. Oh man. All right. I'd say one more topic. We can either talk about the new Golf or the Chrysler Puget merger. What do you think?
It's a tough choice.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I guess we could do them both. The only thing I wanted to talk about the new Golf is it looks identical to the.
It looks like a very minor facelift.
Yeah, it looks like a mid-cycle refresh. And it's we were looking at it, and you know how they'll have when a new vehicle just comes out and people get spy shots of it, and they'll plaster their fucking website name kind of watermarked on it, so they're this is ours.
Right.
It's you can't even tell it's a new Galt. You know, I saw a picture of it and it's like, don't steal it from, like, stolen from whatever jalopnik. It's like, they're probably driving that prototype around without camouflage for like 2 years.
It looks
Because you wouldn't even fucking know.
The old one.
Yeah, I was like, it seemed very
I mean, I guess that's technically
conservative.
that's part of like the golf like heritage is that like they never
It's so
really
similar.
change it that much.
It's
But I think
so
It
restrained
seems like there almost has to be like a limit to
how
I mean,
little.
maybe it drives. It's not like the old one drove bad or anything.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
don't know what they're really going to do to.
It
wow,
is.
this is night and day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. All right.
I mean, I agree. I hadn't seen it, and I just looked it up.
You look at it.
I agree with you. I mean, I literally, to me, yeah, there's some changes, but I'd be more curious to see, because the MK7 was on the MQB platform, so, you know, they had already migrated. I wonder if they migrated to a little bit bigger proportion so they could do all-wheel drive on all of them or something that they couldn't do technically cheap.
Yeah, I assume it's still.
I don't
I'm sure it's
know.
still on the same platform. Yeah, just a slightly tweaked. So I can't really see it like driving way different than the.
I'm not sure. I really don't. I can't even
Well,
tell.
it could be EV related too. They had to make changes to the architecture for
Yeah, to-
like battery
placement.
because everybody wants to do EVs.
Right.
On their
I don't-
gas-powered architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like awesome.
I don't know. Yeah, it looks the same.
I know. I can't tell which picture. It's like, wait, is that a 2019? Which one am I looking at here? Some of these are, can I just say, like, in general, when people fucking do those, like user submitted renders of new cars and stuff, they'll be like, is this the new Corvette C8? And it's so fucking dorky looking. And like, not even,
I've seen a ton of those of like the Bronco.
yeah, or like the new Supra, and it's just like the old one, but like,
Some like bigger wheels.
yeah, it's like, oh god. But then it still gets like reposted on sites because it's like they're so desperate for content. It's like
Yeah, I mean, think about that. How would you like to work for some of these sites as like a journalist or whatever, a web person? You know, like, oh, we need 5 stories a day, and then you just start pulling shit out of your ass.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this guy sent me an email. It's this car's got a fucking dick for an exhaust.
yeah. Oh, this is a like slightly interesting car on Bring a Trailer. Like a story of 500 words. Well, that's why we're so offended when our shit doesn't get posted. It's like, really, like
Yeah,
the
we didn't make the cut.
dick exhaust gets posted like on every site. But that's like this like documentary we poured our hearts into. Nope.
Nope, can't do it.
Sorry, bros.
The funniest thing is like they'll post a story and like it'll look like it's one of their stories. It'll say like, here's why this like works so well, and it's just like a link to someone's video that like
Yeah, right.
you just like repost that as a paragraph.
How lazy can you get? Yeah, it's pretty rough. Okay, what is the Chrysler Peugeot thing? Did they merge?
A couple days ago they announced they're merging.
Chrysler and Peugeot.
Citroen, Peugeot, yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't forget about Citroen.
Oh, Citroen is part of it?
Yeah, and whatever Fiat.
So does that mean we're going to get French cars here?
I don't think anyone. Supposedly, like they want a dealer network to actually sell, because they don't have that now. But I don't know whether that will actually happen or not.
Huh. They probably took a look at the Ego Sport and they were like, fuck, if that's the
That's the future.
That's the barrier to entry.
if that's the market, let's fucking get in there.
You have a lot of FCA connections, though, right? That's like one of the brands that actually.
I do,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think, with the last when we were on our last press trip and we were talking about it, we were like, dude, what's with the Infiniti Nissan Renault merger talks? Like, I'm like, are you guys just jonesing to buy junk or what? You know? They're like, yeah, we're kind of worried about it, and
It's a tax write-off.
it's clearly something to do with other markets.
Yeah.
And it's just not. I don't see it affecting the U.S. And I think
That's a
the
good point.
Peugeot merger is just going to affect their global market versus the U.S. more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what it does for them.
I can't really see like any of those brands actually working here. As much as like people would like to talk about it, like, oh, I'd drive a Peugeot.
Yeah.
Like, you fucking wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they were smart.
I think it just it consolidates. It gives them more supplier connections. More leverage.
That's a good point.
to build things cheaper, have more access to stuff overseas.
Totally.
Maybe it makes sense for them. I don't know what it does, but I'll never know.
I mean, that's a good point. You're buying 600,000 Windows switches instead of 300,000 or something. Like, there's probably something there. Probably some deal.
Yeah, it gives them more power.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish it was a different brand from an American perspective.
Right.
Like, a Nissan Infiniti, that one's a tough one because they're in trouble. I don't know what the hell they're gonna do.
We've talked about that many a time.
It's a recurring topic.
Nissan sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know if it's just money or like management or like lack of resources. It seems like lack of resources because they're not innovating anything new, and the stuff that they have isn't getting any better.
It could also be, I think it's a combination of everything, including probably some brain drain. People start just like seeing the writing on the wall and moving over to Peugeot. Renault's
on the greener pastures.
Yeah, Renault's going to get a new GTR or something. They're going to get all the smart people are going to jump ship. Okay, and finally, we have a little topic, a recurring game on here that we like to play called the Cobalt Theory. And if you are new to the podcast, which I can't imagine there's anyone new, I think our viewership only declines. Yeah. I don't think it goes up.
It's going to go down after this one.
Yeah, this is the cliff. But if you are new, the Cobalt Theory is basically what is the most uninspiring car for an enthusiast to own. I think that's what we've settled on, and
even not necessarily from an ownership, just like even from a distance.
Right. It's just kind of like, what car gives you zero
enjoyment and zero
emotion?
Yes. Zero enjoyment and zero emotion.
And it started because
and zero, like, not a lot of like confidence either.
What do you mean?
Or like even a Toyota Corolla doesn't really inspire you, but like
it's boring, but at least it's reliable.
Right, it'll run
like,
forever.
There's a name. Yeah, and so this started originally because Mike posited that the 2007 Chevy Cobalt 4-door was like the most offensively uninspiring, boring car ever. And so we've gone back and forth on like whether or not we agree with that. Look back at our previous episodes. Anyways, we're curious if you have an answer to that, to the Cobalt.
Yeah, I think I do. The Cobalt, funny enough, was when that car came out. Do you remember the lightning lap stuff?
Yeah.
From Car and Driver?
They still do it.
The
Yeah.
Supercharged or whatever, turbo. Yeah.
No, the Car and Driver lightning lap.
Yeah. I know. They sent the fast version.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the lap time that Cobalt SS set?
No.
It was faster than like a Lotus Exige
Oh,
supercharged. Like all these like sports
Damn.
cars, it blew them away. And all the reviews were like, "This car punches above its weight." It's like, it's just the media around that car.
Right.
It that's when my brain changed from like paying attention to some of this stuff to realizing how little any of that stuff matters. Are you going to tell me objectively because that Cobalt SS is faster than a Lotus Exige, that it's somehow a better car?
You're going to drive one home?
Yeah.
The
Cobalt's pretty bad.
Kind of off. Have you driven the Veloster N?
I did like a month ago, and people are like, "Dude, when are you going to release that video?" And I wanted to wait until I'm going to make more money from ad revenue to release that.
Pump up those numbers.
November.
That's one of those cars like everyone's, oh my god, like this thing is like,
yeah.
But I don't know if that's just like media speak.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like genuinely great.
Yeah,
I have not driven one. I don't even know if I've seen one driving.
We'll have to wait for November.
Yeah, apparently.
To click on those links
to get the goose. Yeah, I click on all of them. I click on all the links, every ad. Hell yeah, I want
I'm
to.
going to put links in there that are going to take you places you don't want to go.
Yeah, Amazon referrals.
I saw one of the ads that I ended up buying a Chevy Trax.
I want one of those. I want those in-video ads like every 30 seconds or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the Veloster N, it's pretty good. I mean, it's what you would expect.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
It's not like game change, like life altering. it's like getting out of a Golf GTI. I mean, it's a really good car.
Sure, it's like
pretty
cool.
Much, and the Veloster is just kind of amps up the gimmicks with the farting exhaust and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But back to your topic. Sorry. I would say there's only a few cars that I've ever been in that I'm like, these things are so fucking horrendous that I can't stomach even sitting in them. One was a Dodge Avenger.
Oh, that has been brought up. It's been brought up.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Avenger was really, really bad. That was like in the era of the Dodge Magnum.
Yeah.
And Avenger. And pretty much all my cars are
Caliber, I
FCA
think, was in there.
Yeah.
The original Avenger was like sort of cool.
I thought they were okay.
When they
They
went
kind of
like mid '90s,
Right.
yeah, they're like sloped.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then then it just became like a dedicated shitbox like in the late 2000s.
Right. Yeah, the old ones were the Mitsubishi ones.
Right. It's kinda like
The
Eclipse
mid 2000s were, I don't know what they were, but I got in that as a rental, and I'm like, I turned around and dropped it back off, and I forgot what they gave me. It was something even worse, but it was better.
You could live with yourself. Yeah.
And what about this one? It doesn't get much worse than this fucking piece of shit. And I even told the FCA rep, she's like in charge of all these,
Yeah.
and I'm like, how could you support a product like the Dodge Nitro?
Ooh, solid submission. Yeah, that's one of those cars that, like, I'll see a Nitro on the road, and it'll make me feel less American.
It looks like
somehow.
it's like chiseled from plastic.
You're like, how did a company create those?
It looks like one of those like cheap toys that like you'd get for my son, like where it's like not like an official thing they sell.
Yeah, it's like the off-brand, like Tonka. It's like Donka or something. Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid submission. Well, I feel like we could honestly talk to you for more hours,
That's
but
true,
this is already pushing this is beyond. It's probably our longest podcast,
Probably,
actually, which is pretty
Feels
good.
like
Anyways, I guess let me just close by reiterating: keep doing what you're doing, except for the part where it's killing you. So,
some sage advice.
why don't I just say this? Whatever you've done so far is awesome. And we appreciate the videos that you have come out with thus far. Whatever else we get is a bonus from here, but
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on and saying those positive things, because sometimes it's like, as you guys know, I'm sure doing this stuff, it can be a real fucking downer. So
yeah, absolutely.
the highs are really high with it when you have something that's good and it's got good viewership and it works out good. It's good, but
Totally.
I don't know. It's so hard. There is no magic formula.
Yeah, those 36 hours where you're flying high.
Until your next video release. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're back in the salt mines. Yeah.
But yeah, you guys likewise. Ever since I saw your first couple videos that you had put out, and obviously some of them were, I guess the first one was pretty viral. The big one where you were doing what the fuck was the title of it? The rollover one.
Oh, the final race. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, the final race.
Yeah.
Continues to be viral.
It's got less staying power, and
That's
I'm sure
good.
you wish it probably didn't have staying power in some ways.
It's definitely like skewed our viewership in a very weird.
For better or for worse.
Yeah, I would say like half of our subscribers are just from that video.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're pretty big in emerging markets. Let's just say.
Developing markets.
Yeah.
kind of places where you might aspire to drive an EcoSport.
Yeah, we struck a chord.
Well, I hope you guys can continue doing what you're doing and just be yourself and stick with the humor that you have and the passion that you guys have as friends. That's what really comes out. You'll have your funny, quirky, off the wall shit that's gonna hit that small group, the core group that's probably paying you money on Patreon. And then work on some stuff that's more accessible too, that you put a lot of passion into. I think it's just gonna grow, but try to do more videos if you can. I know it's hard.
I know.
Yeah, well, appreciate that feedback.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much for taking the time, man. This
This is a lot of fun.
It's been
This was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, thanks.
You're one of the few heroes I've met that I didn't regret. Cross off my bucket list. Well, cool. Well,
Let's finish this up and get Doug DeMuro on.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyways, if you enjoyed something Patreon, whatever, sign up for both the Savagegeese Patreon and the Garbraz Patreon. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you. We'll continue. This is a little bonus, but we're going to continue with our live first Sunday of the month, 6 p.m. Pacific time podcast. And so thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.
See ya.
See ya. Thanks.